Shalom Aleichem. It's almost Shabbos, but I failed to Motzei Shabbos share last week the Dvar Torah that I said over Shabbos. So I want to share with everybody, even though it's almost Parshas Tetzava, but this is from Parshas Terumah, and I'll have Mirz Hashem, I hope, God willing, to have something for Parshas Tetzava to share with everyone at least after Shabbos, if I don't have time now. That week, that was Friday night. I was speaking Friday night in yeshiva in the college where I went to when I was a bacher. We were guests there, and we had a reunion. So I spoke there, and I shared with them. It was February 12th. Now February 12th, 1809. We all know was Lincoln's birthday, but also Charles Darwin was also born the same exact day as Lincoln. So I said, we just said Kiddush, Friday night Kiddush. We mentioned both of them, right? Because we have Zeichel Ma'aseh Bereishis, remembering the creation. There's Darwin, and we have Zeichel Yetzias Mitzrayim, remembering the exodus from Egypt, the freedom from slavery. There's Lincoln, so both are mentioned there. It got a laugh. I don't know if it deserved a laugh, if it got one. But Lamaisa, what does that have to do with Parshas Terumah? We all know. I was preaching the choir. It says V'asu l'mikdash v'shchanti b'socham. It says, make me a temple, make me a sanctuary, and I'll dwell in them. It doesn't say I dwell in it. I'll dwell in them. Not that God lives in a temple. God is everywhere. But where, they ask, where does God live? In our hearts, wherever we let Him in. The Balatanya said, and, I went to Or Samech, once they told the story of the Balatanya, and they called him the Shulchan Aruch Harav, So the Shulchan Aruch Harav, he said, when he was a little boy, he said that wherever the Jewish heart lets Him in, that's where God is. And L'mai says the Al Shech HaKadosh brings out that it's not that God lives in the temple, but in our hearts. It's not just you go to your house of worship. When I lived in Richmond, Virginia, there was a store, U-Crops. They had a sign up, let's all go to our house of worship this weekend. They used to say, let's all go to church this Sunday, but they made it more ecumenical and inclusive. So, it's not just you go once a week, or even you go every day, even a few times a day, and then that's it. And you forget about God. No, you take God home with you. That's the whole message, to recharge your batteries so you can have a relationship with God. And, I heard a story. I didn't mention this, Motzei Shabbos, that, there was a fellow, I just heard it this week, actually. There was a rabbi, he wanted to see the building of his congregation, the shul. He was flying into the city, and he has a big, magnificent structure in that shul, in that big city. And he came there, and he was flying in. He was looking out the window, and it was obscured by the clouds. He couldn't see the building, but then he recognized so much other buildings in the city, and he said, my congregation is not just that one building; it's all over this whole city, in the ministry, in all the outreach and everything that he did, and the lives that he affected. And he knew this is where so and so lives, and this is where so and so works, and really it was the whole city. And so that's pshat, and shchanti b'soicham. There's more to it, I mentioned, we think, that everything's a building, there's so many problems today in the synagogues. There's so much a focus in the building. My Rabbi Fishbein, he always says that, the Mishkan was the simplest structure, but it had the most Hashras HaShechina, had the most divine presence revealed. And the Temple of Solomon, Shlomo Melech, the first base of Mikdash, it was a much greater structure. It was still a great amount of spirituality and Hashras HaShechina, but not the same as in the Mishkan. It was only time to time. I think I forget, he brings this from the Shalah HaKadosh, I believe. And then the Bayasheni, the second temple that Ezra and Nehemiah built, it was a much greater structure. It says in the Navi. I believe that was which Navi was said was Haggai. He said, "Be the of this house," but that there was no Hashras HaShechina. It was much less. And then Herod, Harasha, King Herod, the wicked King Herod, went and he renovated the temple, and he made it the most beautiful structure in the world at the time. Yet it was an empty shell, devoid of all spirituality, and eventually was destroyed by the Romans not too much later. And so I said, I was a psychology major in college, And I said, you'll excuse me for the pun, but that people have an edifice complex. When I said that, someone walked up to me and said, he's going for his doctorate in psychology, and he said, that's been discredited, the Oedipus complex. I said, I didn't say Oedipus, I said edifice, because Rabbi Fishbein always says, I don't know if people always realize that people they think it's a building, and they go to these beautiful temples, cathedrals, that are often devoid of spirituality. Doesn't mean that it has to be. You could have a beautiful building that's filled with spirituality, but we have to bring it, and the way we bring it is really what we bring home with us, home. And the thing is, what we learn from that is really connected to Yetzias Mitzrayim and to Ma'aseh Bereishis. We mentioned, that we have to leave that house of slavery, like the Yismach Yisrael that Alexander brings, that he, why does it say he took us out of the house of slavery in the Ten Commandments? Because they felt at home in slavery, and they have to go out of there. And also, the great mistake what Darwin made is, we know Sir Isaac Newton, he established the laws of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is entropy. If you don't work on something, if you don't have active work to build something, it just falls apart. And so the whole theory of evolution falls apart unless, if God was involved in it, then it's possible. But without God, it's impossible, unless unless you're saying that the development of life and the continuation of life is somehow decay and decomposition. I don't want to live in a world like that. I want to live in a world, that, like it says in Deuteronomy, it says, I set before you this day a life and a blessing, and a death and a curse, and therefore choose life. So I want to choose life. I don't want to just, that's all there is that life is somehow decomposition, and that this whole, it's almost like it's a disease, it's almost like a rot that we are here. No, I want to choose life and as a blessing, and not see life as a curse. Is basically what an atheistic idea of evolution. Without that, it's just going against a law of thermodynamics. So how can you make a theory that goes against the basic law? But that's also something that we can bring into our spiritual lives, that God gave us free will and so forth. Now we're in the last moments of Shovavim Tat. We can often to make tremendous work. Even a little bit of work can go a long way. Even no matter what we did this whole time and we didn't live up to it, we can Psach Lanu Shar based Neila Shar. We're at Neila now of Shovavim. Maybe by the time you see this, it's already over Shovavim Tat, but there's still time always to do tshuva. But I remember the Pittsburgher Rebbe who visited Queens once. He said that if there's a big public sale, people are hitting each other over the heads, Black Friday, whatever, and they can't get in. But if there's it's quiet, a secret sale, sometimes you can get much better deals. And the same thing, everyone knows Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. But how many people know about Shovavim Tat? You can accomplish a lot more. So this last Shabbos of Shovavim Tat, we can oftin gewaltige Sachen, and we can come to make tremendous tikkunim. And the idea is, even with a little bit of work, we can make improvements. But if we just leave things to rot and decay, they just entropy takes place, and it doesn't get better on its own. We have to do something. That's the gift that God gave us. That's how God created the world. It's not. It's not arrogant to say so. So still, it's all by the grace of God, but it's in order that we should learn that lesson, that and emulate that message of God and bring God into our lives, of that we have to build our character. And so now we're going into Shabbos when we don't do any malacha. Adarabba, so we're not doing any malacha, but we're improving our souls, improving our lives. So Mirz Hashem, we should all be gebenched with the Gewaldige Shabbos. Today is the yahrzeit of my holy ancestor, Moshe Aryeh ben Meir the Leib, the Krula Rav, Zechusig Aleinu. The Krula Rav was a big tzaddik. He was the second Krula Rav. His father, Rabbi Meir Leib, was the first Krula Rav, and he passed away in Yud Adar in 1820. And once the Berditchev Rav, the holy Kedushas Levi, the Sanhedrin Shel Yisrael, the great Kedushas Levi, came to visit. He was in Krula. He wanted to visit Krula Rav, and Krula Rav, he was afraid he's going to be influenced to Chasidus. He jumped out the window, but the Rebbitzin called in the Kedushas Levi, said, "Please give a blessing to the children." And one of the children, this an uncle of mine, was a Chenga Rav. He was a Chenga Rabbi. He was a Berditchev Chassid, and his brother-in-law, who was my ancestor, Moshe Spitz, also succeeded him as a Chenga Rav. And I assume his wife also got a bracha from Kedushas Levi. And Kedushas Levi said, "Oh, it's going to be from this one of ours. And it's a guy von Du eins von Inziter." And the Taka was so, and I hope we could try to live up to that. And in the end, Moshe Arya also, he went and he recognized the godless of the Kedushas Levi. He was, of course, not only a tremendous tzaddik, but tremendous Talmud Chochem, and he was a Melitz Yosher, and so too we hope that the Krula Rav also aligns Zayin for Inz and Melitz Yosher, and for all Klal Yisrael, and we should see only simchas now, and Misha Nichnas Adam Marbin B'Simcha, and good things and good hashpos. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed our videos, please tell your friends about them. Please, subscribe and like the videos. That's how things move along in YouTube. You can also help other people, and I appreciate that very much. And sponsorship opportunities as well. So we look forward to, and if you have any questions or comments, I like to interact with people. Maybe if you have an idea what kind of video you want me to make, I'd like to interact with the audience as well. So thank you so much, and we'll have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you so much. Good Shabbos.